We are live at the World of Wellness. This is Wine and Wellness Week number 100.
The Centennial.
We are so excited. I'm your host, Jamie Dorley, with the co-host, the one and only. Welcome back, Joe Messino.
This is it. This is the big one, the one you've all been waiting for. He's here, live.
We are so lucky to have him. He's so generous, so courageous with his fighting for medical freedoms, incredible educator, a clinician also, which often gets trumped by all his other skills.
Exactly. We don't
And,
talk about that.
the host of the Robert Scott Bell Show, which is an awesome podcast and radio show, and a partner and a friend and part of the family at not only World of Wellness, but Nutritional Frontiers.
Mhm.
So welcome back, Robert Scott Bell. How are we doing today?
Doing great, and I'm just warmed up from yesterday's show with both of you guys on it. We had a great time as always, and
Yeah, I heard that was your highest rated show this year.
well, if it wasn't, I'll say it was, because I tuned in for sure, and we had a great time. And it was funny because as we were talking about certain topics, some of the ladies on watching the shows, like, I love it when three guys talk about female health issues. It's like, well, you know what, we got to do our best and balance it out over time, but the
We're
focal
here to help.
point on healing and empowering people to get well, male
It's
and
what we
female.
live for.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think it brought up an interesting question, right? What do you do when you're pregnant, right? What do you do if you're a female in childbearing years, right? So we can really let people know that we are confident 100% that it's very safe and effective to do some of the things Tracy and we were mentioning, right?
Yeah.
Woman's Complete.
Yes, absolutely.
That was created by an OBGYN
Mhm.
and a naturopath, Dr. Mary Bell Verdialis. We actually have her new book here.
Mhm.
And the reason we work with her is because that's what she does.
That's right.
Right?
And she's a fertility specialist.
Yes.
Yes.
So the Woman's Complete is safe and effective from pretty much menstruation all the way through menopause. So there's no concern at all, Robert. I know you have a lot of females out there supporting you and your team.
There, Dr.
So-
V will give you a plug. There you go. There's
The
the book.
healing circle. Nice. I've joked about this over the years about OBGYNs, not that one particular, because there are really good holistic and integrative ones that are emerging, but they had like a body part removal service via drive-through. Like anytime a woman had, ovarian or uterine problems, we'll just pull those things out like you don't need them,
Just
like
rip
God
it
made a
out.
mistake.
Right.
And that's the worst of what we call modern medicine, when they just look at your organs as the problem, as opposed to questioning why are there problems in organs or systems. And now I just saw an ad, I don't know if it was on LinkedIn or something out of England or somewhere, for body removal service due to died suddenly. Like, people are just dropping dead and they've never had this demand for, you need a body removed. I mean, it sounds like a macabre, kind of dark comedy, but we're dealing with not only fertility issues, but just life issues that we've got to counter so much. And that's why I'm also grateful for our friends, Dr. Tracy Strout, Dr. Judy Mikovits, because they're all in on correcting what's gone wrong.
I watched that movie. I didn't get through it all yet, but there's a movie called Died Suddenly. And it was, they were interviewing a lot of morticians, and they are having trouble embalming the bodies because of the inflammation in the arteries.
Well, it's
Strange
unbelievable. And we had Dr. Bob on the other day, Rakowski, showing athletes, right, that are already extreme with their training, and maybe they're using performance enhancers, but now with everything that happened in the last few years, they're at much greater risk for blood clots, strokes,
Yeah.
and cardiovascular events, and quite a few of them have passed away.
Yes.
Record numbers of people have passed away in the last 3 years from these events that are going on. There's been some local athletes, some from Ohio, and some throughout the country, and it's really sad. So I'm glad that Dr. Bob was really addressing that issue,
Sure
because
did, yeah.
he was showing the connection, Robert, between some of the cardiovascular issues and an athlete, right? They still have the same goals and the same. We were talking yesterday with an old school personal trainer
Mhm.
right out of Pittsburgh, PA, a guy that's been coming in from Bulls Gym. So Bulls Gym has some really strong guys there, and he was kind of bent over a little bit, and he said he just got done with his workout. We referenced you, and we said, what's the number one issue athletes have, Joe?
Number one issue is inflammation. Absolutely. Hands down, inflammation.
So they're not recovering properly.
Nope,
Just like when
can't
Robert
recover.
yesterday was having trouble getting up and down off the seat.
My quadriceps from all those squats, and I got to try the product you were telling me about from you guys, the Nutritional Frontiers. It sounds like a great one for rapid recovery.
So I'm going to send you a Power Fuel and also the Hemp Boost so you can help your wife and help yourself. And that's a great pre-workout, but also I use it even for acute lactic acid buildup where, hey, I use some different muscles. I'm in the yard working. I did some different exercises. I turn up the intensity or the duration. Power Fuel can be used acutely, but a lot of people love it. And they put it right in there with their smoothies or the super shake.
Yeah, in fact, we just had somebody on was talking about Lyme disease, and she said that's the baseline to her protocol. Power Fuel every day in the morning. I love it.
So I got quite a few people here asking for me, so I'm going to check out here. Just want to say hello to our friend Robert. I will take care of you today on these, and thanks so much for all your support and generosity with your time. So thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jamie.
All right, Dave.
We'll look forward to seeing
Okay,
everybody
so
soon.
you want to take that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Robert. So we got Judy coming in. I've watched this movie, Died Suddenly. We've got all these things going on out there. We got the community, the medical community backtracking now a little bit about all of these procedures that they purported were safe and the only way to go. And now there's lawsuits being launched. DeSantis just launched another lawsuit. Where do we go from here?
Well, I see a lot of encouraging signs, in the midst of a lot of disasters that we've lived through and are surviving through. For some of us, thriving despite it all, the awakening of the medical community to the disaster that is that which basically owns and controls them. I acknowledge that most people that go into medicine do so because they really want to help people, and then they find out maybe they didn't know, but now they know how disastrously wrong much of their training has led them to do things that are inducing illness, injury, even death. And I don't say that lightly, but I am welcoming those physicians that have seen the error of their training, not necessarily of their ways, because sometimes you can say, look, in ignorance, I didn't know, but once you know, you have to do better. You're asked to do better. There's no excuse at that point. And so I see even you mentioned the lawsuits that are happening. All of these are shaking the tree, so to speak, and making available to people that have been asleep at the wheel, or even, let's say, partakers of modern medicine, and they trusted wrongly a profession that maybe have people in it trying to help them, but the profession itself had been training the people within it to do things that are not conducive to healing. For instance, the obviousness of saying there is no such thing as a drug deficiency disease or syndrome. There's no such thing as a vaccine deficiency syndrome. And of course, when we talk about synthetic mRNA injections, I don't think there was ever a call by God that we should have man creating synthetic mRNAs to signal our DNA to produce proteins that are abhorrent and dangerous and perhaps even deadly within the human or animal body. So even though this might have been obvious to us for a lot of years, Joe, you've been working within this realm of seeing holistic medicine and integrating things. We've got to recognize a lot of people are just now coming to things that we've been doing, I think, more properly, appropriately for decades, and we're ready to help them too.
Absolutely. If there is a silver lining to this whole last 2 or 3 years, it's that I think it did waken up a lot of people. It did open up a lot of eyes to saying, wait a minute, something's wrong here. Okay, I mean, I think there was a lot of blind faith going on for maybe decades. And it took something like this event to really open people's eyes and say, wait a minute, there's got to be a better way here. This just isn't right. I was telling you about Judy. She's going to be here Saturday doing a book signing as well. And we have 3 of her books. Plague of Corruption, I have already. She just came out with a new one, Ending Plague. And the one that she had before that was just called Plague. And you know what? That was in 2014. And she was talking about the destructive path of these mRNA vaccines back in 2014. So it's not like we didn't know that there were some of us that knew, Judy among them. And of course, look what happened to her because of what she knew. But I think more people they're starting to get the message.
Well, we're
Um,
seeing vindication in real time. It used to be you'd have to die before you're vindicated. Many of the great historical figures in natural medicine that have said, "Hey, these are the ways we need to be paying attention. This is what works. This is what doesn't." And oftentimes they die, and in maybe a year or 10 or a century later, you finally look back and go, "Wow, that person was so prescient in what he or she was saying." I love the fact that in the Judy Mikovits journey that she's here and alive and well and enjoying life despite a lot of the things that were thrown at her. And she's been proven to be right time and time again. So I'm certainly grateful for Judy and all that she's done and continues to do. And now more people than ever recognize the value of what she says and has experienced and knows in real time, and that's a blessing. It doesn't always happen that way.
So let's talk a little bit about the Medical Freedom Summit that we're going to be attending next month in Orlando, Florida. Some of the speakers are friends of yours and colleagues of yours and ours, but the lineup is just incredible. I mean, this should be attended just for the lineup of speakers alone. You're going to be there. Ty and Charlene Bollinger will be there?
I don't
Right.
know. Let me see. I'm looking at. There's a
I don't know
couple
if
of
they
things
will or
coming up.
not. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, the January event that we'll all be at, Uncensored Truth, American Health and Freedom Summit and Expo, put on by Terry and Stu Warner. They have
Oh,
definitely brought a lot of people like Dr. Peter McCullough, Barbara
that's it.
Lowe Fisher
Yes.
from the National Vaccine Information Center, Dr.
Yes.
Judy, our friend, of course, Dr. David Martin, one of the most brilliant people
Oh
we
my
ever
God.
know.
Yeah.
And
Early
I'll be
on, he
there.
was one of the first.
Dr. Christian Parks, Dr. James Neuschwander, Dr. Billy DeMoss, one of my favorite doctors of chiropractic ever. He developed the Cal Jam over the many years. Dr. Paul Alexander, Ed Group's going to be there as well. And they just added filmmaker Mickey Willis
Mm,
and that of course lines up with Judy Mikovits, who was really featured heavily in Plandemic. And now there's the second
yes.
one and the third one is going to be out in early 2023. So yeah, you're right. What a lineup. You can go to wellnessparenting.info, I think, to learn about it and see us all there.
Isn't our friend Seth Quinto going to be there as well?
Beth Quinto from Natural Immunogenics. They make the Argentin 23 that you guys
Yep.
also carry, as well as the Sovereign Copper, which I think you
Yes.
have right there at the Weiner Wellness Center.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we have both of those here at the Wellness Center. I got to tell you, that's one of the the best formulas in product in general that has such a wide ranging use
Yeah.
of anything I've seen. The silver with they have the nose applicator, they have the dropper, they have the spray, they have the topical. I mean, it has such a variety of usages, and I love it. I don't travel without it. It's by far my go-to product when I'm on the road, and even if I'm not on the road, like you feel just a tiny little tickle in your nose, and you spray that silver up there, it's gone.
Amazing.
It's
I was
gone.
thinking about all the parents out there that, especially if you're new, it's a little daunting to have a kid for the first time. I remember when I had my first child, and we are like, "Oh my gosh, is there a fever? Do we need a doctor?" Even though, as a homeopath and my wife is a DC, we knew better. There's still you can feel those pangs of fear, and we talk to parents all the time about this.
Sure.
And we've lost the tribal knowledge and the mother knowledge. Yesterday, we had on a woman before you guys came on, Hava, who is all about the mothering energy and the mothering wisdom and the ancient traditions. And it's like we've lost that. And the moms used to know these things are not to fear or not to be panicked about, but to support. And because of the silver and now the copper, and of course the things that we have at Nutritional Frontiers, we have so many tools that preclude the need for resorting to emergency type interventions outside of an accident, like a fall or a severe cut or scrape. But even those can be managed, like I've done with my children, now 22 and 17. Never have we resorted to a vaccination. Never have we had to resort to an antibiotic. And that's not, unfortunately, not common. I wish it were more common, but it gives these kids a chance to be strong and healthy from the get-go, as opposed to being chronically ill from the get-go, like I was, having to fight and scratch and claw my health back to do the things that I can do now in my mid-50s. But I love giving an opportunity for people to learn early on that they don't have to poison their children back to health. That doesn't work ever.
No, it does not work ever. And I mean, look, you mentioned childhood things like ear infections. You just squirt that silver in the ear. That's all you got to do.
I wish
It's
I had
just too
known
many
that.
simple things. In your eye, you can squirt it directly in your eyes. if you have an eye irritation or infection. It's just a wonderful, so versatile product. But
I did this morning. In fact, this morning I had to wake up early. I did an interview with Gareth Ike, David Icke's son in England.
oh,
And I was just like bleary eyed and sleepy still. And I just like took some of the silver spray and went, he was like,
yeah,
much better. Now, it was no infection or anything. It was just kind of soothing because it reduces inflammation locally. So irritation, it's
yeah.
lovely and wonderful. So there's great
That's what
ways.
one of the things Seth Quinto, last time we had him on doing
Yeah.
a workshop, he said that's what he does. When he gets, especially if he gets on a plane, he takes the spray and just
Mhm.
sprays it all over his face and breathes it in and gets it in his eyes. And,
Yep.
prevention. That's all it's
Mhm.
about. It's about prevention. But,
Exactly.
let's talk a little bit about you and your homeopathic background. Because we don't really talk about that very much. Jamie mentioned it earlier. We don't talk about that very much.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the starting point for me in healing, all those years ago when I was 24 was, honestly, an answer to prayers that were made like at 18 or 19 years of age, 4 or 5 years earlier, because I had been raised medically and pharmaceutically, doctors, pharmacy people in my family. And none of the things that I did with their help helped me. In fact, in many cases, was making me worse. So, looking for a way to heal, I had no framework outside of modern medicine in my family, really, than, petition to God, which is good. Prayer is good. I don't believe me, it opened me up, but I had to work a few years in terms of letting go of my preconceived notions about health and healing to be able to be open enough by the time I was 24 to meet a homeopathic doctor that introduced me to the concept of, there's something called liver congestion. Not one of the medical doctors, and there were many that I consulted with from year 0 to 19 when I gave up on them, ever mentioned, "You know what? Maybe your liver is a little congested. It's not doing its job. You've got some toxin accumulation." Nor did they mention anything about deficiency. Certainly, I had gastrointestinal diseases, inflammation that they met with, numerous drugs, antibiotics, etc. And so when I was met with that moment of like, you mean my liver, that thing I learned about in high school, it's not working 100% and that matters? You mean what I put into my body actually matters? And it was like, oh, of course. But it was so basic, Joe. So basic that we often just look right past it because it's not coming with an MD degree, right? A medical degree when you say that. And so
But they were contributing to the congested liver with all of the pain medications they were giving you.
yeah, by definition, their methods, even if they mean well, are toxic to the liver and really, to be honest, every system of the body. Now, every body is different in terms of their strengths and weaknesses, and it may manifest differently in different people. For me, I had all of the classic ailments and illnesses that are very common today that were very rare at the time I was a child of Gen X. I experienced it like the canary of the coal mine, what was going to come. I was like, my body was a warning sign to all the next generations. And so I had to fight back through, first and foremost, what we call the drainage principle in homeopathy, working with the liver, the kidneys, the colon, to work energetically, metabolically, but in conjunction with cleaning up what I put into the body. People say, oh, okay, here, I'll take this liver remedy, homeopathic herbal, and then I'm going to put some McDonald's in me. That doesn't work together. You're like, I wonder why I'm not really making progress. And, my point of as I mentioned, fast food, because I grew up on it, is if you can go to a fast food restaurant like that and not at least get diarrhea, there's a problem. That's not good. And
That's
you
right.
want symptoms when you put poison in your body. You want your body to reject it. But people say, well, that's just too
Yes.
inconvenient. And I just got to keep going. So here, doc, give me a pill to take away the symptom. In the meantime, that toxic accumulation makes everything worse.
That's something that needs to really be enforced, and that is that people will say, "Oh, I eat at McDonald's and I don't get sick." That's the
That's the
problem.
problem. Yes, exactly. So by the time I got strong enough and through this process, it's called, what I utilize is clinical homeopathy. It's based on drainage or drainage. There are
Mhm.
different forms or branches or views in homeopathy, schools of thought. And I don't say the way I learned it and utilize it, it denigrates any other method because there are classical methodologies, constitutional prescribing. All of these are valid and very important. But for me, it was about clearing the terrain. This goes back to Antoine Béchamp. How do we clear the terrain and allow the body to function fully? It's like getting all the garbage out of the way, then giving the body all that it needs. So we can apply that, yes, homeopathically and energetically, but then we manifest it also physically in terms of what do we put in the body, what are we removing from the body. And so that included me beginning to experiment and utilize whole food supplementation, herbs, medicines of creation in my journey back to health. Now, I did, and in fact, it's still available. I think there's like a discount. Our friends at Trinity School of Natural Health, they have lectures on demand. And I did a 1 hour lecture, Introduction to Clinical Homeopathy. So it's like Clinical Homeopathy 101 Plus. And I'm not saying you become a homeopath in an hour, but you'll get the concepts and tenets and you can apply them homeopathically, herbally, supplementally, because the principles are sound that really are foundational for all forms of natural and integrative medicine.
I agree, 100%. And it's just one of those things that, because of all of the things that you just said, it was suppressed. It was absolutely suppressed. And in fact, over the last few years, I mean, there was a concentrated effort to go after homeopathy. Was there not? I mean, I think it kind of took a back seat to, this thing that shall not be named. But just prior to 2020, 2021, homeopathy was under attack.
Oh yeah, yeah. You go back in the history of modern medicine. Of course, I mentioned it in the book that I wrote with Ty Bollinger, The Flexner Report of 1910. But we go back further than that in the 19th century and the founding of the American Medical Association, which followed like a year or two after the American Institute of Homeopathy was founded. And so the AMA was founded with the express intent and purposes to wipe out the competition that it faced for emerging ultimately in the 20th century as the dominant paradigm through basically petrochemical patented medicines versus homeopathy, which was a non-toxic form of medicine utilizing the substances of creation in a very safe and unique way that Dr. Hahnemann founded in the late 18th century through the 19th century. I mean, 1790s. Yeah, exactly. And we see extraordinary shifts and in battles between belief systems and paradigms in healing. And so the attack on homeopathic medicine, of course, expanded to all forms of natural medicine, whether it be chiropractic or naturopathic. The allopathic system, which was owned and dominated and controlled by Rockefeller, Carnegie industrialist monopolists that did not want competition. Yet the irony in this history is Rockefeller himself had 2 homeopaths, personal homeopathic doctors, until the day he died. Yet he was responsible for almost wiping it out in America in the 20th century.
Do as I say, not as I do, right? Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah, well, I think that, like I said, the silver lining in the last couple of years is produced some warriors. And we have warriors on the front lines, the frontline doctors. I mean, they took it on the chin early on. And then some of them survived. Some of them had to go away. But I think it produced a following of warriors that are going to say, wait a minute, this isn't right. We can do these things. We can fix the body. We can heal the body by giving it what it needs. We don't heal it. The body heals itself. But we have to take it down to that level and start all over again with what you put in your mouth. Everything starts with what you put in your mouth. So, I think moving forward, I see differences here, Robert. I see more people than ever that are coming in again. This was like 3 years ago when we had these events. They're starting to come back out, starting to get into life and society again. I saw a post this morning that said that there are more sick children now in hospitals than there were during the whole, issue of that virus. Why? Why are they sick now?
Well, partly, I think it's the end result or a developing result of fear, living in fear for 3 years, locking down, separating, isolating. And of course, the development of the immune system depends upon our interaction with each other, not running and hiding, but interacting with each other's microbiome, if you will, via airborne interaction, et cetera. All of these things are designed to strengthen us, not kill us. And we were inclined to believe, if they had their way with us, that being around other people and breathing was a vector for a murder, if you will. And teaching children this is a horrible thing. So they grow up in fear of being around people. And then on top of that, if they haven't got sun exposure, if they've been given the jab or different medicines that have been suppressive of immunity, antibiotics inclusive, all of these things precipitate what they're describing as RSV or influenza, which are not really caused by those things in terms of the symptoms manifesting, but maybe, if anything, opportunistic or just there because of cellular dysregulation due to
Right.
deficiency and toxicity, and again, living in fear emotionally.
Yeah, it's like another person said, "Oh, guess what? The flu's back after a 2-year vacation." All of a sudden, the flu's here. It was not here over 2 years. Where did it go? Everybody wanted to know, where did the flu go? Well, it's back. It never left. Right? We've just been seeing different variations of it, but it
Mhm.
never left. And as far as the children go, to me, I'm saying that it's a result of state sanctioned child abuse, covering up these kids' faces, making them wear masks, and depriving them of oxygen, making them carbon dioxide toxic. It's just so many things. And we talked about this from day one. And of course, we got suppressed for it. But now we're seeing the repercussions of it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what we can do at this point except keep bringing the word, keep getting the word out. And I think we're getting stronger, and I think we're getting more supporters. And like I said, we've developed warriors over this, and now we
Yeah.
need to,
Yeah,
launch the troops.
we don't develop strength by having a life of ease and leisure. We develop strength by going through hard times, by lifting heavy objects, by working hard, and by being dedicated and committed to breaking through, these obstacles that seemingly are insurmountable. And so what we've been through and what we're going through is partly that. And
Mhm.
also, I believe, awakening us to what's really important, and that is our connection to the very source of all of our healing and the wisdom associated with all of our healing, which is God, not government, not your doctor, not a pharmacist, but God. And that spiritual connection that we must regain, that we may have lost because we lived in fear or we worship medical man and displace God by looking at pharma as all knowing and omniscient, that we would allow for such an abomination as a synthetic mRNA injection. How did we ever fall for it? And I know many of us here and those that had, come over to Wine or Wellness probably didn't or weren't as likely to fall, but there are those that did, and now they're awakening because of what they're experiencing. And as I said, I'm not sitting in judgment of them. I'm welcoming them here. We're going to do everything we can to help them, help you to overcome the things that you now regret doing. And I haven't met anybody that regretted not getting the jab or jabs.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yeah, you see that all over the place now. I know I see that on social media all the time, and you don't hear anybody say, "Gee, I wish I would have got it. Gee, I wish I would have got it." But you see a lot of people saying, "Boy, I wish I didn't get it."
Mhm.
Yeah, it's just this sudden, this died suddenly issue that we're facing right now. I mean, it's all over the place, and it's not just with inflammation, not just with cardiovascular inflammation. They're also seeing reoccurring cancers now.
Yeah.
That maybe were supposedly under control or suppressed or in remission. Now they're coming back, and everyone says, "Well, why? What's the reason?" Well, we know the reason. I mean, we just have Kirstie Alley just died of a reoccurring cancer. Did you see that? I mean, they're all over
Yeah.
the place.
Oh,
And
yeah.
the athletes, unbelievable,
Yeah,
unbelievable.
and I
But
don't know Kirstie Alley's so-called vaccine status. She had been outspoken
wow,
in many ways against certain pharmaceutical things, but what we are seeing indeed, and you're right, is a reemergence of those who have had cancer previously, thought they had it under control, and suddenly massive explosion and recurrence to
yes.
the point of they can't even remediate it, and they're done too. So how many things is this mRNA injection doing in terms of facilitating disease, inflammation, and death? Even more so than what they initially claimed COVID was doing.
Mhm. Well, it's interesting. The report that I watched, this died suddenly, it was all about embalmers, and these guys were coming forward, and they're saying that they were showing actual fibers that they were taking out of these bodies, fibers
Yeah.
that are not normal. They shouldn't be there.
It
They
was like
couldn't be there.
a venous system within a venous system, like an entirely
Yes.
new vascular channel that was filling the
Yeah.
old one. And you wonder, how does this happen? Something unprecedented that morticians and bombers have never seen before. And you gotta go, all right, what's different?
Yeah.
Duh. It's this mRNA injection. Now, what
It
does
is.
mRNA do? It communicates to DNA to manufacture proteins. in this case, abhorrent, abnormal, not, and who knows if it's limited to spike protein. What's the unintended consequence, or intended if it's a nefarious scheme to produce things that again are deadly, that are not of humanity in a God created sense, but in an arrogant man who thinks he's an deity created sense.
I remember early on the Italian government prohibited autopsies. If you remember, very early on in this whole thing, they prohibited them because I guess they knew what they were going to find. And now, instead of autopsies, we have embalmers and funeral directors that are finding these things, these fibers in people. So it's far from over. It's far from over. But what we're here to do is to give the alternative, right? Give you the path to medical freedom. That's what we're here to do. It starts with you. It starts with your beliefs. It starts with your food. It starts with your habits. It starts with your daily activities. All of the things that were lost. All of the things that got pushed and suppressed, right? Don't go to the gym. Don't go ahead and shop for healthy food. Get fast food delivered to your doorstep.
Right.
Wasn't bad enough you could go to the drive-through, but they delivered it right to your doorstep.
Well, the concept of those like at the World Economic Forum telling us you will own nothing and be happy. I don't know about that. I think that having some semblance of control of your own life to make choices that you believe and perceive are superior in terms of benefit to your body and your children's body versus a bunch of dunderheaded old men that want to, dominate the planet. I just have a sense that in freedom, we do much better. And that includes the free flow of information. You discussed briefly, early on the censorship we've all been through, the deplatforming. How were we considered dangerous simply for having ideas that differed from the so-called dominant narrative from a top-down perspective? The doctors themselves, whom we might not have befriended before this because they were allopathic inclined, that woke from their allopathic slumber to say, my gosh, we need to look at dietary mineral supplements. And we need to integrate them along with some safer medications that were antiparasitic primarily, but like hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin that had a very profound safety profile compared to most drugs. I have to give them credit for that. And they were succeeding where nothing else was. In fact, the narrative top down was to take a drug that was so destructive of the liver and the kidneys that it would cause the failure of the lungs even further. And then they would put them on a vent and kill them. So we really see just a massive awakening that is happening. The more they try to censor, the more they try to denigrate and call us names, the more people realize how ludicrous that is as a wise way to go forward. Whereas in discussion and debate and even argument, we are better for it in the spirit of trying to find a better way to move forward. And that's the cooperation I have witnessed, unlike any other time previous, with the various medical professions along with the holistic professions finally coming together. And you sit there at Nutritional Frontiers and Weiner Wellness kind of at a crux because this is where you're doing high-level professional support, yet you're welcoming in all practitioners to come together, work together, and learn from each other, like when we do these education events that Nutritional Frontiers supports and what you're doing there at Weiner Wellness.
Well, you got to start somewhere. And this was all started, I got to tell you, Robert, you've been doing this a long time. Dr. James Weiner, who this place wouldn't be here without, these wellness weeks wouldn't be here without. Nutritional Frontiers, he was a co-founder with Jamie Dorley. But, he was, as far as I know, one of the first medical freedom fighters in this country. He had been doing it for years, decades, not years, decades. And I think it's ironic that he was not here during this because I think he would have been standing on the roof, screaming his lungs out at what's going on. And we're doing the best we can, but this guy was the first medical freedom fighter that I ever knew. And I think it's just fitting that we're here now doing this, under his legacy, and bringing people like you on board, bringing people like Judy on board, and we're just embracing this with open arms. And I can't wait for her on Saturday to start to tell us some updates on what this mRNA shot is doing and what it's going to do. And I have a feeling we haven't seen the worst yet.
Is she going to be right there where you are right now on Saturday?
In person. Yes.
Wow.
Right here at the podium. her and Dr. Tracy will be right here at the podium together. I'll be here right in the middle of them,
All right.
and hoping
That's gonna
and
be
see if I
amazing.
can keep them moderated. But I'm not.
So
I'm going to let them.
for those that are watching us right now, can they tune in the same way on Saturday if they can't be there
Yes.
personally? Okay.
Yes, absolutely. Every single one of the workshops is on our platforms. Every single one of them, including all this Saturday, will be on the World of Wellness YouTube and Facebook channels and the Nutritional Frontiers YouTube and Facebook channels.
Nice.
I don't
Nice.
know if they'll give us any crap about Judy on Saturday. What do you think, Phil? She passed last time. That's right. She did. She did. So they'll be here. So Robert, you got to give us a call while they're here and join the fun.
Well, yeah, I got to confirm that time frame, but if I'm available, I'll just chime in for a moment just to say hi because I love them, and I look forward to seeing everybody back at. I think there was another thing we mentioned on my show. Initially, you had planned for a big Nutritional Frontiers education type retreat weekend in the Tampa area in February, but you told me that you're rescheduling it to give a little bit more time for everybody to plan for.
We're rescheduling that to the spring, probably in April. Yeah, probably in April. Yeah, so
Fantastic.
it'll be a little bit nicer in Tampa at that time, I think, than it would be in February. So, and not too hot, obviously, but it should be just right.
Oh no, it's the perfect time in shoulder season for that. I just wanted to let you know, if it matters at all, I'm scheduled to speak at a conference in April in Utah called Be Healthy Utah, April 21st and 22nd at the Mountain America Expo Center in Sandy, Utah. So hopefully it won't be that weekend, but I can't tell you when to do it, but I'm just telling you it'd be amazing.
Well, we want you there, so
I want to be there.
We don't want that to happen. What is that, Phil? You want to make sure you take a note
April
of that.
21st and 22nd is the Be Healthy Utah Conference, which is like I would love to see Nutritional Frontiers at that event too.
I would love to be there too because I haven't been in Utah in a lot of years. I was there. Last time I was in Salt Lake City was in the early 2000s when the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine, the American College ACAM Anti-Aging, when they had their implosion and that organization kind of started to fall apart at that meeting in Salt Lake. But I would love to come to Utah because you promised to take me to the range.
Oh yeah. Oh, we'll go out shooting because we got places out here galore, and it's my son has a 50 BMG that you can see the shockwave. It's amazing, and we're outdoors, so it's just incredible what can be done out in the wilderness, so to speak.
Yes.
Also, I think are you guys going to be at the A4M conference this weekend in Las Vegas? Anybody? Okay.
No, not. No, I don't. We're not exhibiting.
Okay.
I'm not sure if anybody's going to be there, but we're not exhibiting at it.
Okay. No. Well, just a shout out to our buddy Seth Quinto. They're going to be there, and they have a great time there.
Is Dr. Buttar going to be at Orlando?
I don't think so. I'll have to reach out and see, but I'm not sure if he's on that schedule. I'd love it to see him, but I'm not sure. Usually,
we go way back.
Him and I go busy planning for the next Advanced Medicine conference, and that I think. What did he talk about hosting it next year? And maybe in St. Louis. It's usually over in the Memorial Day weekend.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, because he's another one from day one. It was up in arms about this. I remember early on when he was going out of the country for a conference. He was going to Mexico.
Yeah.
And of course, at one point, you couldn't get back into the country without taking a test. Right. And he was the first one that forced the issue of spitting into a cup and swabbing the cup instead of sticking that thing up your nose.
Right.
And they argued with him, and he said, I'm a doctor, and I'm telling you, this works just as well for what result you're looking for. And he won.
Yep.
He didn't have to stick it up his nose.
Don't mess with Dr. Buttar. You're going to lose on that one. So, I love it. We need to stand up.
Argue with him. No, he's one of the best. But so that's definitely those are on the horizon. We'll be with you in Orlando, January first weekend, right? 5th, 6th.
Yeah, 5th through the 8th, I believe, is scheduled right now.
Yeah.
And there's a good group of people, the Nurse Freedom Network, doing something associated with that. And I know a lot of nurses are plugging into Nutritional Frontiers as they're supporting more integrative and natural protocols for the people they're working with, especially the nurse practitioners. I love seeing that. We need.
I do too, because they're at the front lines, right? Our nurse practitioners have been at the front lines through this whole thing, and they've taken all the punches, and they need more credit than they're getting. And I love to see them come to our side of the equation here too. We need them. We need them
Yeah.
bad. We do.
Yeah, oh yeah, we do. So the folks are coming together, and that's why I would urge everybody that is watching this around the world, if you have an opportunity to come together with like-minded folks, or even people you might not have a full agreement on, and just engage and discuss. I'm not talking about the people that are trying to censor you and your thoughts. Those people you can't really reach until they're suffering. Maybe at the last moment they're reaching out finally. But what I'm talking about is people that have a sincere desire to help one another, to uplift one another, and bring healing. And we all have different methods to do so. I think most are complementary. There may be some things that, as I look at these doctors who are by and large doing good work and achieving good things, I might achieve the same things by a subtly different method. But I'm not going to complain if they're helping people get well and not poisoning them. Why would I complain about that? So
right.
the point is, we're sharing information like never before. Communications lines are open despite the attempts at censorship. The more they try to censor us, the more people want to hear us. And that's, again, the law of reversed effort. They haven't learned that one. The harder they fight against us, the more they lose.
That's right. That's right. They have not learned that one, and that's a good thing. We don't want them to learn it, right? No, we don't want that. And, folks, you really need to tune in to robertscottbell.com. Now, what is your schedule now, Robert? Give everybody your schedule for your show.
Yeah, Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern time, which is where you are right now.
Yep.
And
Right.
we do a little bit of a bonus round because we also simulcast on a number of platforms, and including UK Health Radio, which picks up our show as well, and they play it. But for those that get to listen or watch live or hit the podcast later, and every podcast site except Spotify, we're banned on Spotify. But other than that, you can pick up the show. We just finally got picked up by, believe it or not, Amazon has a podcast site.
Wow.
Whatever you think of Amazon, they're actually now carrying us. But the point is, after the show is officially over, we do a bonus round, and both you and Jamie stuck around for the bonus round because we couldn't contain you, couldn't constrain you, and we had to do more.
Couldn't get everything we had to say into an hour, right? That's
Right.
That's usually what happens.
But the fun of the bonus round is it kind of, not that we're a tight ship in terms of I have it scripted, everything. That's not it. But there's even a kind of a freer form to the bonus round. We're just like, all right, here we are. What do you guys want to talk about? Live chat room interface, that kind of thing, announcements and things. So it tends to go 2.5 hours, sometimes 2 hours, 15 minutes. So don't leave too soon, because there's always, like the end credits in a Marvel movie. There's always something special at the end you want to stick around for.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good one. I like that. End credits. That last end credit scene. We're gonna have to make sure we have something special for it next month.
Yes. Oh, you always bring it.
Wait a minute now. That first Tuesday that we're always on your show, that's gonna fall right in that week. We're in Orlando.
Yeah, so I'm prepared to do the show remotely if you guys are available to do it. And
Might be possible.
whether we're in person, it's the same kind of connection. You just have to have a computer interface or even a phone interface that will go to this one, because we do broadcast through Restream like you do. So it's a similar thing.
Yeah, because I think we're going down on Tuesday that day. So I think we'll be there. We might be able to do it live with you.
So yeah, if you're there, or again, wherever I am in Florida, I'll be broadcast. Sometimes I go to like last time I was there, I was at the Chamberlain's health food stores. They're out of Aikens, out of Oklahoma, I think, but they have a number of stores in the Central Florida region, and I actually broadcast live from there, which was a lot of fun. So we had interaction with their customer base and things. So I might be at one of those. I don't know. We're still developing the schedule.
Okay, sounds good. One way or another, we'll be there with you.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. So what else is going on today? Are you making smoothies for everybody like you did for me at the Winer Wellness?
Yeah, of course. The bar is always open. Yeah, we have the smoothie bar is open. We've got some new flavors going on here this week. We just came up with a brand new one. You'll like this one. It's called Jailhouse Rock. Our new smoothie. It's our peanut butter based super shake. So vegan peanut butter flavored super shake, along with banana flavored almond milk. Maybe you can throw a banana in as well. And there you have it. You have peanut butter banana sandwiches, just like Elvis used to eat.
The Jailhouse Rock. I like it.
Jailhouse Rock, yeah. Yeah, they even got me to sing a few bars of it earlier, but I'm not going to do that now.
That's awesome.
But Purple Haze is still one of the best sellers. It's still one of the top ones. And I know you love that one too.
Mhm. Oh yeah, it's just filled with the colors that you need when you're
Yes.
talking about sustaining all life metabolic functions. They talk about eat the rainbow. They weren't talking about Skittles. They were talking about real food,
Yeah.
blueberries, and these things.
Exactly.
Like, yeah.
Exactly. Well, Robert, thank you. Any parting shots for everybody?
No, just look for us today if you want to tune in at 3 o'clock Eastern time. We've got a
Three
real good
o'clock
show. In fact,
Eastern today.
we're going to be talking with
RobertScottBell.com, right?
yes, and we're going to talk about the AB 2098 in California. Another lawsuit has been filed to stop the censorship of doctors who want to be able to speak freely about COVID
Good.
jabs and also natural alternatives to get well. And they've been shut down through this AB 2098. So that's just one of the topics we're going to cover today.
Well, you might want to have Super Don look into DeSantis's latest lawsuit as well.
Yeah, in fact, that's something we could bring up today or on Thursdays when we have Jonathan Emord, my good buddy.
Okay.
He's the FDA Dragon Slayer. He's beaten the FDA back. Let's
Nice.
see, how many times now? 8 times world record. And I just want to give a plug to Jonathan. If you've never met Jonathan Emord, a true patriot, one of the most intelligent men on the Constitution you'll ever meet, he's set up an exploratory committee to run for the United States Senate out of Virginia to defeat Tim Kaine 2 years from now. And he's almost to the point where he may declare officially he's a candidate. But I'd love for you guys to check out Emord4VA, Emord FORVA, Virginia.com.
We will. Great. Sounds awesome. Thank you, Robert. As always,
Thanks,
it's a
Jeff.
pleasure,
Appreciate you guys.
everybody. Robert Scott Bell. Tune in today, 3 o'clock, to the Robert Scott Bell Show on RobertScottBell.com. Robert, I'll see you soon, buddy.
All right, big hugs to everybody there.